Hello and welcome, I am Garion Reaver and this is the trailer analysis for Dishonored 2 from E3 2015. This trailer differs quite a lot from the Fallout 4 one because it is more active over passive, preferring to tell rather than show. The result is a lot more actiony than the Fallout 4 one. So the first shot of the trailer, fittingly enough, is Corvo's mask from Dishonored 1. First thing I notice is that this is a more HD realisation of the mask, and it ties in with their definitive edition of Dishonored 1 being released. It also appears to be more weathered, implying that the mask was ditched after the events of Dishonored, or sometime after that. This wide view shot, which is pretty much unlike anything we got in Dishonored 1, I first thought to be Tivia, but it's actually confirmed to be Karnaca, which is the capital of Serkonos. Serkonos is the island from which Dowd and Corvo originated. Interesting things in this shot are what appear to be a ballista battery on the far right, coastal defence most likely, and what could be a cable car seen going up the middle, although that does appear later on in the trailer.
It's happened again. Someone's pulled the rug out from under you.
And we have the unmistakable voice of the outsider providing narration. Just a heads up, I'll be cutting into speech a lot, so I recommend that you watch the full trailer linked in the description to hear what he's really saying. What I noticed in this shot is how greatly the guard's dress differs from Dishonored 1. This is because Dishonored 1 was set in Dunwall, which is essentially Victorian London, whereas this seems to be taking more of a tropical setting.
An empire at your feet, and you've lost it all. Be honest.
There are a few things of note in this shot. So first of all, the firing squad. It's unclear whether this is a military thing, or a police thing, or what, or the context for why these civilians are being executed. Perhaps more interestingly, however, is what appears to be a robot man on the right-hand side. These appear quite clearly later on in the trailer, so I'll talk about them a bit more then. On the left, the Crown Killer is watching. This cryptic clue becomes a bit more obvious later on in the trailer.
Did you really deserve any?
Here we get another shot of the firing squad, and we get to see the other graffiti on the wall, and it says, "Death to the Duke."
Of it? More important, what would you do to get it back?
This shot turns out to be the first-person perspective of the protagonist, and the thing I noticed here is how narrow this ledge is. There were narrow ledges in Dishonored, of course, but this one seems to be almost half the width of the protagonist. There you get the first glimpse of the protagonist, but don't worry, you get to see them in their full glory later on.
Careful. There's always a price to pay. What you decide...
Due to how fast it is, it's hard to make out what the graffiti on the wall says at a glance. By going frame by frame, this red writing here says, "Coin or blood, pay what you owe."
will ripple across the...
Whereas this writing here I can't make heads or tails of. Now or how something come it night? I'm not sure.
years.
This is quite clearly not the plague from Dishonored 1, this is perhaps a tropical illness as noted by the greenish skin. It's also a lot more gory than Dishonored was in its portrayal of the plague victims.
Blood in the gutters and corruption on the wind.
All of these locusts could point towards a locust swarm ability. Rats could be a much smaller part of the game, perhaps replaced by locusts.
It'll be fun watching this unfold.
And here we get the first proper power. It's been confirmed that the protagonist here will not have a blink ability. This is the far reach ability, which appears to be a sort of black vine that stretches out, grabs whatever, and you get pulled to it. The vine theme fits the tropical jungle vibe.
What will you do with the power I've given you? How will you make your mark on this wreck?
Here we have use of a spyglass, because this protagonist does not wear a mask, so you won't get the mask zooming ability. Also, with the range of this shot, it could suggest that the levels will be larger, more sprawling, but they have confirmed to be taking the level structure from Dishonored 1, and it will not be a traditional open world one. Here again you can also see what appears to be the cable car cables. Perhaps that will be one way up to that mansion. This could be the Duke mentioned on the writing on the wall. In Dishonored 1 there was a Duke in charge of Serkonos, but he was described as a benevolent person. So this could perhaps be Luca, one of the Duke's sons. The other one was killed by Billy Lurk in Dunwall. Perhaps this is the new Duke. And there in the background is Sokolov's painting, so this could mean that this person, whether he's the Duke or not, could be either a relative or perhaps a student of Sokolov, which could explain his tinkering. Now this is something very interesting to see in the trailer. This appears to be some sort of changing room that uses the steampunk technology to entirely change the contents of the room. Whether this will be a gameplay mechanic or limited purely to this one place, or perhaps even just cutscenes, is yet to be seen. Another big question is the purpose of these items in the frames. The top one looks similar to something else we see later on in the trailer. Here we get a shot of the new crossbow. It has been confirmed that the protagonist will have an entirely new crossbow. Here we get a well-lit view of the robot men, however there is a much better lit view shortly.
Cover your face, but I know who you are. Emily Caldwin.
That is right, the protagonist, or rather one of them, of Dishonored 2 is Emily Caldwin from Dishonored 1, and this is 15 years on, which means she is approximately 25 years old.
Nothing is an accident. Everything is in motion. All of it has led you to this exact second in time.
Here is something of a close-up of the robot man. It seems his face is clockwork, maybe? And I can't get out of my head the clockwork men from Doctor Who. And seeing the rotary dials just below his face make it perhaps quite obvious that the things in the cases are parts of the robot men. This could mean that this man, Duke or Sokolov's student or whatever, built the robot men. So here we have a well-lit full-body view of the robot men, who seem to have 2 arms each, which are separate blades. Something else I've just noticed is on his chest appears to be something that looks quite similar to a bone charm. Whether this is just purely coincidental in its appearance, or whether that is actually being powered by a bone charm, is yet to be seen. I was very pleased to see this confirmation that Emily is bearing the mark of the outsider, and she's going the Dowd route and covering it up. It's also evidence of the bend time or some similar power. So here is our first proper view of Emily without the scarf thing covering up her face, and she is, of course, pretty much unrecognisable from Dishonored 1, but then again this is 15 years later. This has been confirmed to be Corvo's sword. Emily will be using a new crossbow, but she will be using Corvo's sword. With this energetic fight, it could just be cutscene, pre-rendered stuff, but I'm sort of hoping it means that the combat system will be greatly improved and it won't just be a back and forth of slash, block, slash. Because to be honest, that was a bit disappointing in the original. And here is a full-body view of Emily. She has a rather slender frame, much like her mother in Dishonored 1. We also get to see how she's dressed, which is very different to how Corvo was dressed in Dishonored 1, which is very much a military outfit. Whereas this outfit is very much fit for an empress with a travelling jacket over the top. And that term came from the developers, not from me. That could be an arc mine, which we saw in the Dishonored story-based DLC with Dowd. And that's a much better shot of the robot man's head, which appears to resemble quite a lot the thing in the item frame. Here is a trap being activated, and this could connect to the changing rooms mechanic. It could be that traps are a downside of going loud in this, as opposed to going stealthy. this could be another power. It seems to be vine-like arms that allow her to get very low and maybe even climb walls for a brief period.
Think before you strike. If you kill me, you become the assassin we claimed you were.
And there you get the first real hint towards the plot of Dishonored 2. Emily has been accused of murder, hence the crowned killer thing. That is, of course, playing into the title of Dishonored. So Emily has been dishonored, and this is somehow on her path to redemption or revenge.
You become one of us!
That last line I listened to about 10 times trying to decide exactly what he says. I settled on "you become one of us," either as a killer or as, I don't know, a user of the Outsider's power, although he didn't show any evidence of being able to use it. So I'm not sure exactly what he says there. I'd love to hear people's thoughts.
The years are long.
This is a much more high-definition version of The Outsider, so I like how he's had a slight design change, but is pretty much recognisable as the same character.
But it's always good to see a familiar face.
See, here, that doesn't look to be the same mask as the one that fell in. It's certainly not the same one as from Dishonored 1. It's a lot more angular in design, so it could be a new version of the mask, perhaps one for Emily, maybe. And it's also hinting quite strongly that Corvo will be back. That has been confirmed by the developers. Dishonored 2 will be using 2 protagonists, Emily and Corvo. And that is the entire trailer. Like I said, it's a lot more action-packed in that the characters are directly doing things rather than being a series of establishing shots. An important thing to remember is that it is a pre-rendered trailer, so we don't know how much it is actually saying about the gameplay. Going off the Dishonored 1 trailer, and of course Dishonored 1's gameplay, this could actually be very representative of gameplay, but dramatized for the purposes of the trailer. I will not be doing a Dishonored 2 Hopes G-log, because that would just pretty much be me pointing at Dishonored and saying that. So I will be doing a video explaining more information that's been confirmed by the developers, but that will be in a separate video later on. So watch out for that. The Fallout 4 trailer analysis will be linked at the end. Thank you very much for watching. Please tell me any thoughts you have about Dishonored 2, the trailer, or my analysis of it. And I will catch you later.